Religious community with the social and cultural issues in the area in and around the capital city. Austin Faith Dialogue is brought to you by Austin Metropolitan Ministries in cooperation with KTBC TV. Join us now for this week's edition of Austin Faith Dialogue.
Some people turn to their faith as a constant source of comfort and guidance. Others turn to their faith only in times of crisis. And there are some who stop turning to their faith altogether. How can religion reach out to these souls, to those who have never shared in their faith, and to those who simply forget? I'm Ruth Landsberg, your host for this edition of Austin Faith Dialogue. We're privileged to have with us today several true innovators. They will share with us their special way of reaching out into the community. I'd like to welcome the Reverend Sterling Lands of the Greater Calvary Missionary Baptist Church.
Thank you.
Willie Adams, the chairperson of True Vine, a program at that church, and Arnold Bratlin, the church clerk. I'd like to welcome you all to the show.
Thank you.
Before we begin talking about these special programs that you have at your church, I'd like to take a moment and look at a news broadcast that Lisa Kazulu did here on KTBC back in July of this year. Let's take a look at this piece.
Let us remember that God did not deliver us from the slave shacks so that we could come out here and be slaves to drugs.
It's just after midnight on East 12th Street. And for the second weekend, members of an East Austin church are out here marching. The marchers say they're trying to reclaim the neighborhood, reclaim this street. This is their direct attack.
We're here to make a statement. This is a nonviolent protest against drug abuse, against alcohol abuse, and against any substance that is causing the family to be separated and young boys and young girls to be enslaved on the streets.
I hope that a good, positive thing will happen on the streets and they'll try to clean this place up.
At the first march last Friday night, there were only a handful of people. This time, at least 50. The marchers plan to continue every weekend through August, not just on this street, but in other crime-ridden areas as well. They hope to eventually attract hundreds, especially the people who live in these areas and are now afraid to leave their homes. People we talk to on the street say they don't think much will change, but these marchers say they're not giving up. Lisa Kasolu, Channel 7 News.
That's a pretty extraordinary report. Tell us a little bit about these marches that you're doing.
Well, the marches are, I guess, an extension of some of the things that happened years ago, 20 years ago, where individuals took the streets as a forum for presenting their case. In that case, we were talking perhaps about some of the human rights issues. Here we're talking about a human right issue, but it is a right to live and to experience the inalienable rights that every citizen of this country has. So we are a nonviolent community action that makes the statement that the streets belong to the people and not to the drug pushers, not to the criminal elements, not to those who would abuse the privileges of freedom. And we as a church family, and recognizing ourselves as the extended family of the East Side and of Austin, as far as that goes, we're out to say that this belongs to us.
As they said in the report, that you're reclaiming the streets.
Absolutely.
Reclaiming
Absolutely.
them.
And that's basically the statement that we're making there. And we're trying to make it as clear as we know how, and that is by presenting our bodies as a living sacrifice.
And so you go out on Saturday nights?
Friday nights and Saturday nights, specifically during the spring and the summer months. We're out every Friday night and Saturday night. During the winter months, we're out once, twice a month. And our mission is basically the same, but we demonstrate it in varying ways. For instance, we've been out where we gave out tracts, and we've tried to witness to individuals who were perhaps enslaved by drugs or enslaved by alcohol, or those individuals who were just homeless, or individuals that are on the run, or individuals who are just there and don't necessarily know how they got there. During the winter months, we are going out to hand out blankets and sweaters and coats because it's cold out there, and we are hoping that in the near future we will have a facility that will allow us to sleep individuals and feed them and wash them.
So when the church was founded, it was founded almost exclusively as an outreach.
I believe that the New Testament church is outreach, personally. Our church is founded on the basic principles of salvation, education, and liberation. One is that a man must be saved, and then saved he must know the truth, and the truth will set him free. Now, we do very well as a church as far as salvation is concerned, and I think every church in the community will attest to that. We do fairly well as far as education is concerned, in that we deal a lot with the edifying of the individual, but we don't necessarily apply what we have taught them to everyday life. So we are good hearers, but not necessarily doers. I maintain, according to the scriptures, both Old and New Testaments, that you take the salvation education principle, but you must present that principle and apply it within your everyday walk, and that's liberation. Liberation, of course, is freedom.
That's what you're doing.
Absolutely.
That's what the application is.
Absolutely.
And Willie, you've participated in a lot of these walks, haven't you?
Sure. Yes, I have.
Tell us about going out on the streets.
For me, I get mixed feelings when I go out there. I'm also a recovering alcoholic, drug addict. And during my using days, I've been recovering for 5 years now. During my days when I was actively involved in drug abuse, I used to go in that area to buy drugs.
In the area where the marches take place?
And when I go back to that area, one side I feel really grateful and relieved that I'm not there anymore. At the same time, I have a lot of sadness for the people who are still there.
Do you find that that gives you a special way of reaching them because you've been there?
I find that people, like, for instance, my wife, who's never had experiences there, not even casually, she never really hung around that area of town. I find that her courage in going in that area and doing what she's doing by doing the demonstration for life, that is more of encouragement to people down there than someone like me who's been in that environment and come back. I can help people best when in the support groups. We have one at the church. We call it the True Vine. And on a one-to-one basis, by helping people on their daily lives, that's when I can do the best work. But I do support the march, but we have a lot of people in that line who never tried drugs in their lives.
So you reach out and bring some of the people that you meet back to these sort of support groups?
If they come to the church, and they don't even have to be members of the church, but if they find out about it, the pastor has a radio program he does on Saturday mornings on 1060, and they've had people call in wanting to know what type of support is available. There's a particular situation with Christians who are supposed to be, born again and not supposed to have problems with drugs or codependency problems, and there's a stigma still involved with that. And they have a aversion to traditional therapy, as we have in the treatment centers. So.
And that's the stigma? Tell me about the stigma.
No, the stigma is members of the church overall who say that if you're saved now, you shouldn't have any problems. You shouldn't still be actively
saved by the faith.
Saved by your faith. Your faith is enough to heal you. That's true. It can be. But in some cases, a person needs help along the way. And I was involved with Alcoholics Anonymous and Al-Anon 12-step groups for years. And I found that not only was the recovery part where you did the 12 steps important, but it was also important to have the support, the fellowship. and having someone who takes you by the hand and leads you on into a recovering life. And we call that discipleship in the church. And AA, they call it sponsorship. And unless the people who are coming into the church with these problems are given that discipleship, that sponsorship, and someone works with them one-on-one, they're probably going to go through life miserable.
So that's a lot of what the church is providing, this one-on-one, back and forth?
Absolutely. I think that to amend or append to what Brother Adams has just mentioned, the church focus as an internal focus is not effective in the community. And to be effective in the community, one must have an external focus. One must see an inward change and recognize outward indicators. So we have to do things on the outside. We're prepared on the inside, but we have to go out and do things on the outside. And I think that the focus has to be the health, interests, needs, rights, and welfare of the community at large. That's the type of thing that the New Testament church is here for. I mean, that's why we're here during this particular age. Now, if we cease to do that, or if we never start to do that, then we're being ineffective. And I think support groups is an excellent ministry to show those individuals who perhaps have been enslaved by drugs or alcohol that, look, you know, God loves you just as much as he loves anybody. And matter of fact, he loves you so much that not only did he send his son, but he's also sent us to put our arms around you, and under no circumstances are we going to just turn our back on you. That's what a support group is supposed to say without necessarily using those words. You should demonstrate that. I don't know, did I capture that properly?
Yeah, that's pretty good. It's very important that a person feel like there's one safe place where they can go. And even in churches or denominations, people don't feel like, you know, I can really tell somebody this bad thing about me. And in the support group, it's all kept confidential, anonymous, and we've got a small group now with the potential to grow. And that small core, the people are really binding together, and we've seen some growth. We've had some failures, but we've seen a lot of good growth from couples. And we welcome couples, because usually one person has the primary disease of addiction, and then the other person has the other disease of codependency. They're married to that addicted partner, and they have to have them. So we work together.
So there's some complex problems.
Mm-hmm.
I see Arnold agreeing pretty vigorously. Can you tell us about some of the people that you've worked with, obviously without exposing any confidentialities?
Well, as the church clerk, I come in contact with everyone. And coming in contact with everyone, my primary responsibility is to make sure that everyone's needs is met to the best of my ability. And, you know, I thank God for the church, because I remember the days when my life was spent running the streets. And I didn't run on 12th Street, but I ran with all of the people that did go on 12th Street. And now I don't do that anymore. Now my life is fixed and clean, and, you know, and it's by the grace of God, and by, you know, through his son Jesus Christ, who has strengthened me and saved me, you know, and all of these things is just like, and with the people coming in that need help, they can come and, you know, they call me first a lot of times, and they'll call me and they say, do you have this program? And yes, we do. Some people will sometimes just call just for prayer, you know, and we have strong prayer warriors, you know. I mean, when the phone rings, we're ready to pray if we need to, and I mean, that makes a big difference sometimes. That all somebody needs to know sometimes is that somebody cares enough to take out time from their busy schedule or whatever just to pray and to say, I love you, or that we care, and that our doors are always open. And the phenomenal thing about our church is that it doesn't matter how you dress, it doesn't matter how you look. You can come to our church. We're not going to refuse you. And because we have people that come up and say, does it matter, you know, that I have on these jeans, that I have on these clothes? No, come on. God does not look at that. God looks at the inner being. Come on and worship with us. You know, concentrate on your salvation first. And that's, you know, and I thank God for the programs that we have, and I thank God for our pastor, because he's captured that vision.
I can feel an energy building up right here among us. Just listening to you is just making my my heart skip a beat. It's very exciting, I think,
Amen. It is.
to be right there on the front lines, answering the phones and going out into the streets.
This is real stuff. I mean, you know, it's one thing to talk about a church and to talk about Christianity and to talk about one's faith, but it's another thing to actually walk it. And a person has to walk and talk the same. If you're walking one thing and you're talking something else, you're hypocritical. And I think that we have been plagued over the years in all segments of our society with too much external hypocrisy or rationalistic unbelief. We just tend to talk about a thing, but yet we walk about something else, or we say one thing in the light and then in the darkness we do something else. Well, it's high time that we demonstrate what we say and talk. We should do those things, and I think that young people will find an anchor when they can see people doing what they say. Be who you say you are. And we try to do the right thing the right way for the right reason, expecting the right results to benefit our sisters and brothers and glorify God according to His Word.
And you find that a lot of the people you reach are the young people?
There are many, many young people out there. I don't know if I could say a lot, but I can say there are many young people. Do you agree with that?
We have a young congregation as far as even young adults. We have a lot of young couples, people who are basically on that cutting edge of life right now. And we have a lot of young people in our church also. A lot of the people on 12th Street are just kids. You know, when the curfew was imposed, is that a good word?
I like it.
On 6th Street, well, a lot of those kids moved up 6 blocks, and now they hang out there. That's their boys-girls club. It's the streets. The lack of facilities for these kids, that's a big problem.
And one of the things that you're hoping to provide is a facility for them.
Yeah, we desperately need to address the fact that a lot of the students that are on the street are there not because they're bad and not even because they want to do anything bad. They don't have anywhere else to go. And one can say, well, why don't they go home? Well, you know, come on, give me a break. How much of that can we really say and be realistic about it? So we need to provide facilities that will allow them to do things that are wholesome, that are constructive, and that buy into them learning how to associate and interrelate with one another. Of course, I'm saying that and as if we have a place, but we're going to be out of our building at the end of the year, and we're looking for a facility. And so if we can find anyone that can help us with a 8,000, 10,000 square foot place, we desperately need to talk to them immediately.
So your facility, it's not even located right now that close to 12th Street.
It's right now at the 7500 block of Cameron Road. Our church was initially located on Oak Grove, 1100 block of Oak Grove, which is right off 12th Street.
And ideally, you'd like to find another space near there?
Well, ideally, we just want to be in the corridor, because all of our people are all over the city. And
what is the corridor?
The corridor, as we see it, are some of the areas that have been defined even by the city. If you look at I-35 as being the westernmost boundary, and if you look at 183 or Ed Bluestein as being the easternmost boundary, and if you look at perhaps Riverside or Riverview or maybe First Street being the southernmost boundary, and then you come up to 183 as it comes around now as being what the northernmost boundary. That's the corridor.
That's the corridor.
Yeah, and we are serving that area. Now our people are from other areas also, but we serve that area, and those are our people.
That's a pretty big area to serve.
Well, and some very important people over there too.
Yes.
And we also have transportation where we can, we have a bus that is accessible, a 66 passenger bus. They can go pick up these people if they don't have transportation. When they call us, we have the list where and we don't stop with just our immediate area. We'll drive all the way to South Austin, we'll drive anywhere. If somebody wants to come to church, if somebody wants to come anytime during the week, we have services all week long. You know, it's not just one of these Sunday churches where we have church on Sunday and we go home and then we don't do anything the rest of the week. We have Bible study on Monday night. We have midweek service on Wednesday night, spiritual enrichment on Friday night, and all-day service normally on Sunday. You know, so we're not an inactive church through the week. We're active all week long, and so there's always something for spiritual filling and spiritual growth And you know, that's a key factor that a lot of people have to understand. And we have the availability to pick them up all during the week. You know, and it's not just one of these things where we only pick you up on Sunday. No, we pick you up all through the week. All we need to know is, you know, when people need a ride, they just call the church and we come and pick them up.
That's pretty extraordinary. So this, I'm very interested about what you mentioned about the children, the students in that area needing a place to go. And I wonder if what you're considering for your new space that you hope to acquire, is that something that would provide youth services and a place for them to hang out, a shelter?
I think that
in a dream world, what sort of facility would this be?
Well, no, let's don't talk dream. Like we can be real about it. One is that I think we ought to have some pool tables. You know, we ought to then teach you guys how to shoot pools and shoot pool in a friendly, wholesome environment. You know, we ought to have some handball or racquetball courts where they can go in and dissipate some of that energy. We're already asking and inviting requests for computers, and we have now about 12 different brand computers in our church, and we're trying to set up a whole row of computer stations so that we can start teaching kids how to use and how familiarity with computer systems. You know, we're all computer literate ourselves and have come from that high-tech background, and so we're interested in the young people also being brought up to speed so that the threshold at which they enter into the learning environment, the academic environment, is not so negative that they feel as if they are unable or unworthy or lacking the necessarily mental abilities to compete. I mean, those are positive things that could work if we would just, if we had one, just a little help, and two, we had some committed people who were interested in making it work. I mean, we love these kids. These kids are going to be our future lawyers and doctors. And I mean, would you want a brain surgeon working on you who's been spending his life out on 12th Street? You know, not hardly.
You really, I mean, already what you're doing and what you aspire to be doing even more of is enabling the children.
Absolutely, enabling and empowering. That's the key area right there. You know, why do the schools close during the summer, for instance? You know, why couldn't schools be open year-round?
Well, that's something they're talking about.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we're talking. We do a lot of talking. We don't do enough walking, you know. It needs to be done. Why don't we have the facilities like gymnasiums in the schools open at night?
Yeah, when I was a kid, they used to be open.
Yeah.
We used to go and play basketball and things like that in them.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm sitting here on one of these programs where people are saying, we need to do this, we need to do that. I remember so many programs I've watched, and I said, wait a minute, we've got the government, my taxes are paying for that already. Well, it's apparent that that's not true. The government can only do so much, and it's time for we as citizens and charities to really look at broadening our mission and doing more.
Plus, I don't think I don't want the government doing it for me. I think that this is a family affair. You know, to rebuild the fiber of the family, you can't go to the government to do that. I mean, what does the government know about family? They've proven what they know about family. That's why families are basically destroyed now. I'm not blaming it on the government, but because we've cast so much on them. This is a family affair, and family affair deals with people, and people, the most important institution as far as I'm concerned in the life of people is the church. So then the church must once again become the center. And as far as the African American community is concerned, it has been the center focus of all of our activities for the last 200 years. And the fact that that's fallen off is because of affluency in the country and because of some of the other more depressing things of the underclass. It's time to regain that. And I personally do not want the government doing that for me. Now, I'll take the government's money as long as they don't put the strings on it. That's
very good of you. Well, it's nice to think, it would be nice to think of church services and faith-oriented groups offering services that complemented government services, where, you know, they're reaching different parts, but that you would achieve a whole. I want to take a moment and give our viewers an opportunity to see your phone number.
Yes.
And this would be a way for them to reach you if they want to learn more about some of your programs and prayers and the different times that you meet.
Okay.
I think it's probably up for them now. We've just got a couple more minutes here. Tell us a little bit more about your congregation, some of the people that are involved.
Our congregation is roughly 260, 70, maybe 300 people. The average age is about 35.
That's quite young.
We have a lot of babies, and a lot of teenagers, And some of us senior citizens are there, but not many of us. And we are salvation, education, liberation oriented. Our focus is to raise up strong families, and so our family ministry is the key area in our church. We believe that people that get married should be married for life, and when they come together, it is a vow, and that vow is one that should not be broken. And we're interested in building on the basic foundational blocks of the New Testament, and we use that throughout. We have good people there. They're committed people, and I think down to every one of them, they want to do the right thing the right way for the right reason, expecting the right results. And so we focus on that. We're a church that is mobile. We'll get up and go, and we've proven that already, and we've earned the right to say that others should come out, because we've been there day in and day out. We were there for a while. For 21 weeks or so straight, we were out on the streets every weekend, Friday and Saturday night, and we didn't go out with our hands out. We went out to help. We didn't go out condemning. We went out to say that you are important. We'd never one time looked down on anybody other than to help pick them up, but we've never actually cast a view, and our church's philosophy is focused in that direction. So, I mean, that's Greater Calvary in a nutshell. Now, what we need is a building, and we need a building in a hurry. So if someone is going to call us, we would appreciate your prayers, of course, and we appreciate any contributions they want to make. But we need someone who understands how to get some of these buildings. I mean, what about these buildings that RTC owns? How do we get something positive done that will allow us to do a great deed for the community and at the same time meet some basic needs that we have?
Well, I'm not sure I could answer all of those right now, but I think that maybe some of our viewers might be able to help. There's a lot of wonderful things. I have to say, I'm floored. I'm so impressed by what you're doing. It's just really, really moving, and I've been fortunate to share a lot of what you've been doing through the media. All of your work came to my attention through lots of TV reports, newspaper stories. You've had an extraordinary amount of attention. I hope that this generates a lot of positive responses for you.
Yeah, it has been extraordinary, and I guess that's an understatement, and that we did not necessarily court any of that. But I think that we have a lot of people who are so interested in having the right thing done that when they see it, they recognize it.
And they respond to it.
And they respond to it.
I think we need to wrap up now, but I'd like to thank you all for joining us, Willie and Reverend Land. And it's just been a pleasure having you, Arnold.
Amen.
It's been really, really good to learn.
It's our pleasure.